So today we're talking about how to choose a stablecoin, but maybe it should have been entitled "How to Build a Stablecoin." But it's a different facet of the same coin, and we'll see that. I'm Mariam. I'm with Angle Protocol. We built a Euro stablecoin. Have been live on Ethereum mainnet since November 2021, and still building. And we built a system in order to support an infrastructure, in order to support that stablecoin, and that's generalizable to all other stablecoins, and that's what we are going to discuss. While building that infrastructure, we had three principles in mind: risk management, transparency, and a use case that would allow the adoption of that stablecoin. And starting with risk management, it's very important because there is a specific event that prompted the redesign of our stablecoin. That was the USDC DPEG in March 2022. I believe all of you have lived that event in a very frightened way, like we did. We almost, as we thought at least, witnessed the collapse of DeFi. So if you look at the CoinGecko data, it went down to almost 0.95 cents. And when that happened, I think we collectively realized that no DeFi protocol, and especially no stablecoin protocol, was prepared for that DPEG in terms of risk management. So one example, for example, what happened with Maker when that happened? The PSM had GUSD in reserves, but also USDC. And when you're dealing with automated DeFi systems, there is an issue where you would see that the system will remain with a weak asset. So people, to summarize, will arbitrage the protocol. So they would come in, mint DAI, because there was an assumption that 1 USDC equals 1 DAI. So they would mint DAI with a USDC that was worth 0.9, and then go with GUSD. That left the protocol with weak assets and people who don't exit the protocol early holding the bag. And this is something we don't want, obviously. So you can see here, if you were looking at the three CRV pool, you could see that as the news were coming up, the pools were being more and more filled with USDC, and people were taking out the assets that were not DPEG'd, i.e. USDT. Anyway, so witnessing that event was very traumatic for us as well, because we had a lot of USDC in reserves, and that prompted the redesign of Angle V2. And we really wanted a protocol that was scalable. What does that mean? It has to work with 1 million stablecoin or 1 billion. Resilient in the face of such events. Diversified, i.e. you need a diversity of assets backing your stablecoin in order to be less exposed to one that might just break down. Autonomous. And when I'm talking about autonomy, it's very important because the example that we see also previously with MakerDAO, people were arbitraging the protocol, but most likely there was uncertainty. That's why people were doing that, because we were awaiting governance decision in order to change the parameters. So you do need a system that will be able to react automatically to this type of events. Fair, as I told you, if you don't react, you were left holding the bag. And then generalizable, as I told you. Now that we had all this in mind, what do we do? Here, this is the transmitter, the system we've built in order to answer all these criteria that we have and should have for a stablecoin. So the transmitter basically is a basket of assets, and it has different functions that will react in a specific way when one asset in the basket DPEG. The first function is the mint oracle. So let's say you have one asset, your A, that DPEGs. If someone comes to mint, it's a very simple system. You know, you have the price of your stablecoin, the DPEG price. So we introduced a deviation metric, and that deviation metric will allow you to that every time there's an asset that DPEGs, they will only able to mint your stablecoin at the price of the DPEG asset. So it means they cannot deplete the protocol of its reserves. There's also the burn function, because of course you will not leave people stuck in your protocol. So if they want to burn it, they will be also able to burn it at the price of the depegged asset. But then you would tell me, if you keep reducing the price at which they can burn it, if the asset goes to zero, it means they can't burn for anything. So that would also be problematic. So there is a third function that's called the redemption function. And the redemption function is really here the novelty in the system of the transmitter. What does that mean? If one asset depegs to, let's say, 0.9% or 0, you either have the choice to burn or to make a redemption for a portion of each asset. So if tomorrow USDC depegs and you come to redeem assets in Angle protocol, you will be able to get a portion of every asset in our protocol. And that does make sense because, for example, as a shareholder in a company, you are eligible to a portion in everything in the reserves. So there is still that option that's available. And what does that introduce in particular is the fairness issue. It means that tomorrow, if you are on the other side of the globe and you're sleeping, and someone else can withdraw from the protocol very quickly, you will be able to redeem in the same condition as that person. Everybody will get the same portion is entitled to the same portion of the reserves of the protocol. And now, the other issue that showed up after the USDC depeg was also the transparency. Because at some point, in the case of Maker, nobody knew what governance would do with the parameters, but also even in the case of Circle USDC, there were doubts about where do they have reserves effectively at Silicon Valley Bank? If yes, how much? There was an issue there. And I believe in DeFi, we have the chance to be dealing with blockchains. Everything is transparent, data can be updated in real time. So this is an occasion for us as an industry collectively to leverage this technology to make a system that is much more transparent. And in that respect, I think you all know, you would say, hey, we have Etherscan, but not everyone here is a developer in this space. Not everyone is an Etherscan warrior. And mostly, if we want to onboard much more people, we have to leverage that, but in a Web2 context. So that's why I think it's very important that everyone has a dashboard, standardized dashboards and balance sheet for stablecoins. So we do have that, and this is a standard that we're trying to push. Live access to balance sheets, also showing equity to liability ratios, because this is an important metric. We often talk about collateralization ratios for stablecoins, but the equity metric is also very important because it lets you know how much of a depeg or how much of a depeg a stablecoin can absorb as a buffer. As of today, our equity to liability ratio is 30%, means if we can absorb a 30-cent depeg. That's very important as well, because once the autonomous system and automated system of the transmitter has dealt with the depeg, then governance can, in a predictive way, say, if we have an equity or surplus a buffer, how are we allocating this to the people who suffered the depeg? But since they have been treated all the same way, it's very simple then to compensate and make people whole. So that's the transparency bit. And then it's the real use case bit. Once you have built a stablecoin that works and works in a way that's automated, once you have pushed the transparency and make people much more informed about the risks and what they're dealing with, you still need to give a use case to your stablecoin. Of course, when you're talking about use cases, you think about integrations in other type of products that people are building in perp decks, money markets and everything. But I think there's an opportunity, because we're dealing with stablecoins, to embed a real use case in the stablecoin itself. I think you've been hearing a lot now about yield-bearing stablecoins. Everybody is doing that these days. In terms of reserves, in our reserves, just like, for example, MakerDAO is doing it, we have tokenized euro bonds. What's cool with the transmitter is that it's generalizable to all type of assets. So with these assets, we're able to stream a yield to the people who hold AG euro in a very native way, without minimum deposits, and it's an immediate compound. What's interesting with that as well is once you can do that on the blockchain, you depart from what traditional finance can do, but will not do. For example, if you look at a centralized stablecoin like USDC or USDT, they do have short-term bonds in their reserve, but do not redistribute that to the user of their holders, maybe by lack of will, but also because the infrastructure is not there and it's not built as a decentralized stablecoin. So I'll just finish with some conclusion thoughts. You have similarities with TradFi systems, as I said, but we have an opportunity of bettering this system, and that's how we can maybe build currencies that are better than the fiat currencies that are proposed as of today. So it's about leveraging the technological stack, and also the iterations that I was talking about around transparency, auditability, risk management, and of course, naturally, smart contract security. So we need to build more informational tool, and this is something we've built with a dashboard that you can find at facts.angle.money, and we are trying to push it as a standard for all stablecoin protocols. So if you're interested, please make sure to come and chat. We'll be happy to.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Mariam or anything to say? Because I remember the USDC DPEG, and that was scary. But I know that we have a lot of DeFi buffs in the room. So anyone with any comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I really like the design. I'm curious how you want to bootstrap like liquidity and distribution of the stablecoin. That's obviously always like the #1 issue that everyone is facing when introducing new stablecoin.
That's a very good question, because the problem and the magic with stablecoins, it's like a standard. And for a standard to be adopted, there's like a chicken and egg problem. Somebody has to use it for somebody else to want to use it. For us, the way the Euro stablecoin started, really the use case we are doing with the savings account and the fact that you stake your AG Euro to get some yield that comes from our reserves, for me that's the first product market fit of Angle. And it contains both the promise of DeFi and also not losing value on your money, because I remember when I first joined this space, everybody would say that very famous expression, crypto is an edge to inflation. Maybe this is what we're building here. And on the other hand, I'm going to touch on the question of rewards and incentives. Some people would say that's the answer. To me, I'm not totally against it, but it's not a long-term answer. I'm saying I'm not against it because, for example, flight companies would do points and tickets and nobody blamed them. It can be an appeal and an attraction factor, but long-term, real yield is to me the solution. That's why we built the savings.
Anybody else with any comments or questions? Oh, wonderful.
Hi. So we all want to have a secure stablecoin. We are always playing between USDC, USDT, and DAI, and they have different risk factors, right? So USDC is the American government, basically. USDT, we don't know where the money is, and DAI is more algorithmic. I didn't get, how do you deal with reserves? Is it completely decentralized? Are you a company? Can, Lagarde come and say, Christine Lagarde come and say, shut down, we shut down? Where is your risk, basically?
Okay, that's a good question. First to address, we are an over-collateralized stablecoin. So, yes, exactly, just like DAI. Now, the question of regulation is a very interesting one. I think you know that in Europe we now have MiCA. That will come to application next year. With MiCA right now, the state of MiCA is that it doesn't apply to decentralized Euro stablecoin. But the subtlety is in MiCA. I'm going to try not to get too lost here because I was a lawyer before, so stop me if this gets boring. In MiCA, you have a concept called DINO, decentralized in name only. You probably have heard of that before. So really the challenge right now for Euro stablecoins and any other stablecoins is if you want to stay under the umbrella of DeFi, make sure that by application you do tick all the boxes that deem you decentralized. In my personal analysis, and this is not legal advice, I have a sorry. Oh, okay, this is amazing. Oh no, I'm not. Okay, I'm not your lawyer. There are a few criteria, non-exhaustive list, of course, but the battle of decentralized front ends that, for example, some protocols are leading the charge on it right now. Liquidity, you got to give it to them. They're amazing on that front. Also, on-chain governance, very important. And we were talking about hacks and different troubles. Having the ability to pause a protocol if things goes, I don't want to use that expression, but if things goes bad, that can be complicated as well, because you have in legal text the notions of significant influence. So if you can press a button and say, let's stop things here and fix it, you probably have significant influence. So anyway, make sure that you do, look at the protocol, see what are the moments where there is human intervention that can make you drift away from decentralization, and fix that before the regulation comes to place. Yeah.
Can you stop it, your protocol?
Very soon, in 1 month, it will not be possible anymore. We're going fully on chain with the governance. Right now, there is a multi-sig, and that will no longer be possible. No multi-sig in 1 month. We're stopping that. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay.
I wanted to understand the process. Like, how do you mint those bonds? Like, what is backing the ST Euro?
Oh, that's a good question. So if you go to fact.angle.money, you will see the list of different assets that we have. There is a diversity of them. EURC, RAB staked ETH, RAB BTC, and that portion, the bonds, BC3M, it's an asset that's a tokenized short-term bonds, only short-term because, of course, in terms of liquidity, we've seen exactly with Silicon Valley Bank what happened. So for us, it's only tokenized bonds that have maximum durations, average durations of 3 months. These tokenized bonds, we went with Backed Finance. Not sure you heard of these guys. Okay, Backed Finance is regulated in Liechtenstein. So that's a real-world asset that is tokenized by an entity that's a Web2 entity. It's a company. What's important, I think, when you're dealing with RWAs that are tokenized by companies is to look at criteria around bankruptcy remoteness, the fact that they are registered in a European country, have a European prospectus regulated, and then the bankruptcy remoteness details like the security agent, the paying agent, and all these things. So to answer to you, it's Backed Finance.
Is there like, does the rate change based on utilization? Like
yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And since launch, rate has varied between 3.8%, which is the Euro risk-free rate at the moment, and 8%, depending on who and how many people were in the contract. But absolutely, yes.